Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Jobcast. Today, we're discussing networking, but not the typical in-person mixers that give us introverts so much anxiety. We know that's not really a good option right now anyway. So we'll focus on one-to-one online networking efforts specifically. I'm excited to introduce our guest speaker today, Emilie Aries. Emilie is a podcast host, author, and founder and CEO of Bossed Up, an award-winning personal and professional development community where she helps women craft happy, healthy, and sustainable career paths. And that's me, Brandy Cohn. I'm a manager on Indeed's Job Seeker Experience team. We're responsible for creating helpful resources like this Jobcast for our users, like you. So take it away, Emilie.
Thank you so much, Brandy, and hello, everyone. I am so delighted to be sharing this next period of time with each and every one of you. As Brandy said, I founded a company called Bossed Up back in 2013 because, frankly, I got a little burnt out of the world I'd been working in, campaigns and elections. And while I ended up pivoting my own career to help others really advocate for themselves in the workplace and on the job search, one of the things that working in campaigns taught me to do extremely well was to get my next job, because no matter how well you did when you're a campaign operative, come election day, win or lose, you are out of a job. So I learned to really hone the art of networking, of connecting with others, and really worked in the city of networking, Washington, D.C. for many years, where I ultimately started my business, Bossed Up, with no real injection of investment through everything I'd learned as a grassroots organizer and campaign operative, building relationships one at a time. So Bossed Up is a wonderful community of women in particular, but really all kinds of people who come together to lift as we climb, as the motto of the first American Black Women's Club goes, and really help one another as we all advocate for ourselves in this process. So I'm delighted to share with you some of these top lessons I've learned, both as an organizer and as a career counselor and advocate for the past decade plus now, to help accelerate your job search, because I know it can be such an isolating and lonely climb to navigate the job search on your own. Today, we're going to talk through how to approach this as a community organizer would. So there are three concrete components to today's conversation. We're going to talk through how to organize your networking, because having lots of conversations with lots of people, things get messy quickly. Life is messy, so we're going to help you make the most of it. Then we're going to talk through some 21st century tools that can help you be as strategic and effective as a networker as possible. Honestly, the 21st century job search is full of nuance in how you apply to jobs. The last Jobcast I did with Indeed was all about how to make sure your resume gets you through the ATS systems that we're all up against these days. So we also want to bring that modern, tech-savvy approach to networking as well. And then finally, something that is not modern, but is so tried and true and so important when it comes to connecting with other people, practicing the art of storytelling. Because when you reach out to someone, you need to get the message across very quickly of what makes you unique and different, and how you share values with the person you're reaching out to increase the odds that that person is going to help you in navigating what's next. Now, before we get busy organizing, we want to make sure that we have an organized strategy driving our path forward. So one of the ways that we want to first be strategic in organizing our networking is to really think first about who to target. Who should you even be networking with to begin with? Because you can't talk to everyone. Your time is limited. So how do you focus your energy on those who might be most willing and able to help you? First, start with who you know. Start with who you know. Pick the low-hanging fruit, right? Talk to friends of friends, your past colleagues, your brothers, sisters, aunts, cousins, friend, whatever it might be, have some kind of a mutual connection. And do not be afraid to tap whatever networks you're already a part of. That includes your alumni network. A lot of colleges and universities, career centers, no longer think of their jobs as just about helping graduates or undergraduates get jobs. They're really thinking more about extending their services to their alumni. Even if you haven't been in college for quite some time, reach back out and tap into those networks, because having that common mutual experience of having attended the same institution will make this person much more likely to reciprocate your networking request. You might also expand your search to people who work at your dream company. We're going to talk more about how exactly to get a hold of them. But even if you don't have a pre-existing connection to those folks, if they do work in the industry or the company that you're looking to get your foot in the door with, those folks should be at the top of your target list. Whether you organize your networking by people you already know or by companies you already know, you're going to want to make sure you track your progress specifically. I recommend using a simple spreadsheet like this one you'll see here. Now, this one's organized by people, but you can also organize it by company first and then search for people who work within that company. You'll want to make sure that you track their current location if possible, so that you can jog your memory, like, who is this person again? Where are they based again? Definitely keep tabs on their contact information so you have a Rolodex, or in this case, a modern day version of a Rolodex, all in one place where you can search and scour and follow up quickly with folks. Their LinkedIn profile URL belongs here, as well as their phone number if you ultimately end up getting it for any reason. Most important, you'll want to keep tabs on where they currently work and what the status is in terms of their relationship to you. Have you already emailed them, but you have not heard back? Have you had a conversation with them over Zoom and had a networking virtual happy hour conversation? Take notes, because you will be talking to a lot of people. And no matter how great your memory is, the more folks you talk to, the more likely it is that you're going to forget. You're going to forget what you talked about, what their new child's name is, the fact that they just adopted a puppy. Those are the little details that will help you be an active listener and be really human in your follow-up. So, of course, I think a lot of folks struggle with the transactional nature of networking when you're looking for a job. If that makes you squeamish, be extra conscientious of what's happening in these folks' personal lives so that you can send them that baby onesie when they bring a new child into their family, or so you can ask about how their puppy house training is going. You can ask about their new adopted kittens so that you can show, yeah, I'm getting in touch because I have an underlying motive here, but I'm also paying attention to what's going on in your real life and what matters most to you. It can make you so much more of an effective networker because it shows that you're being an active listener. And this is just going to help you out in keeping you organized when you do reach back out to folks, especially when you do and you will land your next job. This is going to be a great list of emails for you to just copy and paste into an email and say, I want to thank each and every one of you for all the ways in which you helped me navigate this recent career transition. I'm happy to report my new job is X. I'm working at Y. If I can ever be of support to you, please don't hesitate to let me know. Keep tabs of people in this way and keep your data organized so that it's easy for you to copy and paste and email everyone when necessary. Now, speaking of email, that is one of the top ways I recommend leveraging online networking overall. The only other medium that's truly appropriate for online networking is LinkedIn direct messages. So connection requests with a special personalized note are a great way to start a conversation, or sending them some in-mail on LinkedIn, that works too. Email is the best, most professional, expected, normal way to reach out. please do not do yourself a disservice by trying to slide into someone's DMs. It is not going to give the most professional impression. And that's especially important across age demographics, because while, Snapchatting someone might be totally normal and fine of a certain age, maybe Gen Z is much more comfortable on, Snapchat or direct messaging via LinkedIn, not LinkedIn, but Instagram is what I'm trying to think of here. Someone who is a little more seasoned in their career might find that to be a personal invasion. So you don't want to do yourself a disservice by using a medium that comes across as a little invasive and too personal. Stay away from Facebook messages too. Most of the time when you're reaching out to someone who's not already a friend of yours on Facebook, they're not going to see it anyway, because Facebook messages get stuck in a spam filter from other messages from people you don't know. So do yourself a favor and don't text, don't slide into someone's DMs, email to keep it professional. The only exception to this rule is if you've been emailing someone for weeks on end and there's someone would love to connect with you. You're confident that this person would totally return your email if they only saw it, but you are worried that you're getting stuck in their spam filter, which does happen all the time. In that case, your next best option is to text if you can, or to DM someone if you can. I'll give you an example. A fellow author and friend of mine, I was inviting her to be a part of a program as a featured speaker that included paying her, and I just wasn't getting any response on an email that I kept sending to her and bumping up for her. And I went ahead and cautiously slipped into her DMs on Instagram and said, hey, I wanted to be extra sure you were seeing my emails because I don't want you to miss out on this opportunity. And I was very delicate about it, and she was grateful that I did go ahead and DM her because she wasn't seeing my emails and she did want to be a part of this. So be thoughtful and be strategic in how you reach out. Now, one of the questions that's already coming to mind for so many of you right now is, but what if I don't have their email address? The more visible that VIPs become, the kind of VIPs that could open doors for you, or even their assistants, their executive assistants, who are some of the most powerful people in the room, those kinds of gatekeepers' contact information is rarely publicly available online. So we need to be thoughtful and strategic in how we practice online sleuthing in order to track down people's contact info. Now, some of you are already very good at this, but in case you haven't seen these tools, I want to share some do's and don'ts and some savvy technology to help you track down people's contact information. So when you are doing your preliminary research, because it's not just about getting their email, it's also about getting to know what they're all about so that when you reach out via email, you can be thoughtful in how you tailor your email to that specific person. Do get to know their career history. Check out their LinkedIn profile. Where have they been before? Where have they worked over the years? How new are they to their position? That will inform how you ask questions of them when you network with them. You also want to get to know their current endeavors. Maybe they're running a marathon right now, and you'll want to be thoughtful about asking them about that if you've run one in the past, especially if that's a common thread, right? Or maybe they are very active in advocacy and activism online and offline, and you want to show your support by contributing to a fundraiser that they're hosting right now on their Facebook page, right? Whatever it might be, definitely take a peek at what they're up to these days. Try to understand their interests and try to find a way to be of support to them even before you ask them to be of support to you. It might be as simple as sharing some positive news that they recently got about a scientific breakthrough their team was responsible for. You could share that on Twitter, share it on your own social media, say, I'm so impressed with the work that this person is doing. Check it out here if you want to learn more. Again, contributing to a cause that they're fundraising around. If you can find a way to be helpful, even just to be a cheerleader from afar, it's going to make reaching out to that person feel a lot less transactional and much more like building on a friendship that you've already started. Please don't leave a like trail. If I open up my Instagram and find that you have liked 7,000 photos of mine dating back till 2012 before you slide into my email inbox and ask for a meeting, that's going to feel a little weird. So I know you've all done this before, right? You've been scrolling down someone's Instagram and you've gone way back to 2 years before now, and you're zooming in to take a peek at something, and all of a sudden you accidentally double tap and like that post. Don't freak out if that's what happens, but do not leave a like trail from, before, from a decade ago online. That's just a little beyond sleuthing, I would say. You also, when you meet with this person, don't want to reference anything that's too obscure. Let's say you've gone down a click hole, you've searched their name on Google, you've watched every interview they have ever given, and at one point they peripherally mention that they love watercolor painting. If it's that obscure, best to not mention it, because it just starts to feel a little bit more like online stalking than online sleuthing. So be thoughtful, keep it professional, and for goodness sakes, don't spend too much time here. We can accidentally think of online research as a vanity metric, something that makes us feel like we're being productive, but isn't actually moving us closer to meeting or networking with this person. So don't spend too much time here. Now, if you've done all the research you can and you still can't find their email address, that's a huge barrier to even starting this process, right? So here's a tool that will help. It's called an email permutator tool, and it's originally by distilled.net. I'm going to show you where you can, or how you can actually use this tool in a very interesting way. You can also find this tool and copy it for yourself at go.indeed.com/permutator. So I happen to have it up right now. This is my own copy of this Google spreadsheet. Very important. You can't edit the spreadsheet until you make a copy of it yourself by going to File, Make a Copy. So that's your first step. Then, let's say I want to reach out to the one and only Brandy Cohn. I'm going to write her name here, and I'm going to write the company she works for, Indeed.com, here. So if I'm trying to guess Brandy's email, because I literally can't find it anywhere on the internet, and I must send an email to her because I must get in touch about something, I'm going to put first name, last name, and domain name there in the yellow box. Now, as I edit that, you'll notice the things on the right in the green columns start to change, don't they? What's happening there is this spreadsheet is following a formula of common corporate formulas for all possible combinations of people's email addresses. So it might be just first name at Indeed.com, the domain name of her company. It might just be last name at Indeed.com, or it might be first name, last name at Indeed.com. It might be any number of the very many emails that this pops up, right? Very handy little tool, isn't it? So what I'm going to do next is copy all of these email addresses. This is really important, so pay attention. I'm copying all of them. Then I go over to my email to send a note, and if I put this in the to column and Brandy receives it, she's going to see like 50 versions of her email address in the to column, and that's going to feel really weird. That's going to make me look a little bit more creepy than I'm trying to look at this moment. So the little change that can make a world of a difference here is I'm going to put these emails in BCC. So I just pasted all of those email combination possibilities in BCC. So if any of them are correct, she's going to get that email and she's not going to see any other email addresses. Now, the only risk you really run here is if there are multiple Brandy Cohns who work at Indeed, and you might actually be accidentally emailing more than one. That might be a little bit awkward, but I think it's very much worth it, because that's not the worst thing in the world. If you accidentally email the wrong Brandy, she might be used to getting that anyway and help me forward my message on to the right Brandy. So that is one tool that I think has great power. And so I urge you to use it with great responsibility, because it can really help you when you have to get your message across and you just don't know who or how to email that person and what their actual email address is. Let's keep moving on because we have so much to cover today. But don't put that in the to column. Make sure you always put it in the BCC column. Now, whenever I'm using online networking best practices, I always start with an email message, but that doesn't mean that my goal is to just keep this conversation on email. The very first email I send is designed to answer these questions. Who are you? Why are you reaching out to them specifically? Because if it's super generic and I feel like you're asking the same questions of me that you could ask anybody, I'm not going to feel very motivated to respond. Because it's like, why me? Why do you need my time? Why am I the right person to connect with you? What advice could I possibly give you? Make sure you're explicit about that. And then number 3, what do you want? I've got a related blog post at bossedup.org called How to Land a Meeting with a Very Busy Person that goes into even better detail on all of this stuff. But some of the best practices that'll help make sure your email is even opened and read is to keep that subject line strategy on point. Keep the subject line short enough so that it can be read in full in a mobile device. That means you've got to keep it really short. Use their first name in the subject line itself whenever possible. It shows that you are not spamming 100 people with the same message. And finally, get to the point right there in the subject line. Here are a few examples that work really well. Especially this last one I want to draw your attention to. If I have a mutual friend that introduced us or that's a common ally, I want to name that person in the subject line themselves by saying, hey, Jamie, or can we talk, Jamie? I'm a friend of Patrick's. If you already have that common connection, make sure to call attention to it. Keep the body of your email as concise as possible. If you feel like you've got tons more to say, put it somewhere else, right? Say it on a personal website. Say it on your LinkedIn profile and just hyperlink them to that. If you want to learn more about me and my background, you can find me on LinkedIn here. And just use hyperlinks to share more info if people want to opt in to learning more about you. Make sure to send your email message in the morning time based on your recipient's time zone. The best times tend to be between 8 a.m. and 11 a.m. You want to catch them when they're at the keyboard for the morning, so they're more likely to open that email. And be sure to create personal context. Why do you specifically want to connect with them specifically? Here's an example. This is an example of the kind of email I used to send when I was breaking into the world of digital political technology. I used to be a digital strategist working in campaigns, running email programs and online fundraising programs, and this is the kind of email I would send. Hi, Joy. Connect with an aspiring woman in tech in DC. I make a note of woman in tech and DC because I know Joy is a woman in tech in DC, and I aspire to be a woman in tech as well, creating personal context around what we have in common. Here's what I say. Hi there, Joy. I'm Emily, a former classmate of Jane Doe's, writing to see if you might spare a few moments for a fellow woman in tech looking to break into the ad tech job market here in DC. I admire the path that you've forged at all the different companies she's worked for and would love to be in a position to support you in return down the road. Now, that's kind of vague, right? I have no idea how I could help Joy someday, but just by mentioning it, it shows that I'm thinking reciprocally, right? I am the kind of person who wants to reciprocate, and I'm being mindful of that right up front. In bold, I make a very clear and specific ask for 20 minutes of her time to connect over video chat next week, and then I sign off with my personal website URL so that she knows exactly where to go to learn more about me. Always ask for a live conversation. Now, nowadays, a live conversation might be a phone call or a Zoom hangout. In-person coffee meetings are, of course, the best, but they're not only not practical often because of all kinds of reasons, but they're definitely not practical right now. That's okay. The goal of a live conversation is to actually exchange ideas, swap stories, learn more about each other, because people need to feel like they know you before they're going to help you in any way. So if you're trying to work at the company where I work, I need to know who you are before I'm comfortable referring you or opening a door for you or making an introduction for you. And the only way to really do that is through a live conversation. There is just no substitute that can fully encapsulate who you are. So your ask is always made at first via email, but with the goal of landing a live conversation over Zoom. Sorry, introverts, we can't avoid actual networking, even with online networking, so embrace it. Now, if your first email, I should note here, if your first email goes unresponded to, bump it up for them. Reply on the same thread, ask them again, maybe wait a couple of days, a week, but keep bumping things up. The first email often doesn't get returned, so make sure that you try again. When scheduling that meeting, let's say you get a yes, I'm happy to make time to chat with you. Next week doesn't work, but how about the week after? Use these best practices to try to make it as easy on the other person as possible. Remember, they're doing you a favor by giving you some of their limited, most precious resource, their time. So please don't make them work for it, right? Be your own executive assistant in making sure you make this as easy and seamless a process as possible. Calendly, Google Calendar, Doodle polls, those all can help to cut down on email back and forth about scheduling. Never, ever send someone a GCal invite assuming that they have agreed to a 1-hour meeting. That is too much time. Make it 30 minutes or less. Even 20 minutes is a sign of respect, and that might bleed over to 30 minutes. But assume that they're not offering you an hour of their time. Then ask them what methods they prefer. Are they most comfortable over the phone? What works best for them? Set it up. Send them a Google Hangout link or a Zoom link. Provide options and stay flexible. If they cancel on you, don't take it personally. Your job search is your priority, and it will never be someone else's top priority. That's just the reality. So if they're willing to be generous with their time, you've got to stay flexible and not take it personally. The best way to reduce the likelihood of a last-minute cancellation is to send them a little reminder email the morning of. I'm so excited to meet with you later today. Here's my updated resume in case you want to reference it during our conversation. If you think it makes sense, include it. And of course, this goes without saying, always, always, always thank them immediately for their time. We'll talk more about that in a moment. Now, once you've got that real live conversation on the books, how do you make the most of it? How do you connect human to human? The answer is as old as time. You've got to tell a compelling story, a personal story that really positions you as the hero of your own story, which I know when you're a job seeker who's very frustrated, perhaps in a global pandemic that makes you feel not like the hero of your own story right now, this can be challenging. But I guarantee you this strategy is going to help. It's going to be more effective because you are not defined by what happens to you. You are defined, and your character is defined by how you choose to respond. So I really want to challenge you to think about your personal story. What is a challenge that you've faced? What are the choices, the brave, courageous choices that you have made in the face of those challenges? And what's the outcome? Now, if you're in the middle of living your story right now and your challenge is unemployment or a pandemic or a career transition, it's hard to tell that story. So maybe go back a little further. Tell me about a challenge you faced earlier in your life. How did it shape who you are? What's the outcome? What did it teach you about yourself? When I talk to folks for the first time, I usually share, I worked in politics, campaigns and elections, but I completely burnt out because I martyred myself for the cause, for the campaign, and for the very toxic relationship that I was in at the time. And I knew early on in my life that I was going to have to sit in the driver's seat. I was going to have to be the boss of my own career if I wanted to have a career with impact over the long term. And that's when I learned that I couldn't just advocate for others. I had to also take the radical step, especially as a woman in a world that doesn't always like women who do this, and advocate for myself in order to be the best I could be for others. And that's why I started Bossed Up. Now, that's a very succinct example. Distilling your entire personhood down to a 2-minute story is difficult. In fact, it's impossible. What you're telling in an opening story in a networking meeting is just one little sliver of who you are. It's not the whole picture. It's the picture you want them to know about you. And I know this is hard, and we could do a whole hour probably on personal storytelling, but my colleague Ellie can share some other great resources we have at Bossed Up to learn more about that art. Again, this should be uplifting. No one is motivated by, help, 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 I'm in such desperate times and straits, and I feel terrible, but I'm struggling, and this is what's happening, and I just feel like I can't even do this. Woe is me. Help me, help me, help me. Now, first, let me acknowledge that might be a perfectly valid and true statement about where you are right now. There's nothing wrong with feeling that. But it is not the most strategic choice to lead with that kind of a story, because someone goes, ugh, I don't know what to do here. That's too much responsibility for me. I don't want to be a part of this story, because now I'm scared I'm going to disappoint you. So instead, lead with, here's what I have to offer. Here's what I'm looking for next. Here's how we can help each other out. I'd love to hear from you. You should be the hero of your own story. Then you want to hear a little bit about them, of course. This is not a monologue. You've set yourself up with a live conversation so you can do just that. You can tell them what you admire about their career. Ask them why questions. Why did you choose to leave that company for your new job? Why did you choose to take this big pivot? Or why did you choose to go to architecture school and then end up working in interior design work? Tell me more about that transition. Why questions get at other people's values, so it helps you identify areas for commonality. This is more on that, right? Asking about their career trajectory can be a great way to keep the conversation flowing. Similarly, asking specifically for forms of help, like, would you review my resume? Would you give me feedback on my approach? Would you facilitate a connection to a colleague? I see that you used to work at this company. That's my number one target company. Would you recommend that I work there? And if so, would you be willing to make a referral for me? Those are the kinds of specific asks you always want to have in your back pocket when you have one of these conversations lined up. Go in with an understanding of what asks you might make, but leave yourself open to the possibility of changing your mind. If you all of a sudden hear, because they're mentioning it, oh, we're hiring in the near future, you might change your ask to, oh, really? How do I apply? So keep an open mind, be open to the possibility of even more opportunities emerging over the course of your conversation, but be prepared by always having a go-to ask that you're ready with. Now, after these conversations happen, what you do next can make or break the impression that this person is left with you. I just did a recent podcast interview with Justin Wynn, who talked all about how to authentically connect with people on LinkedIn on my podcast. I wonder if Ellie could drop a link in chat to hear that one, because it's a really great podcast. One of the things he said is that it's not about who you connect with. It's about what they remember about you. And if you want to make a really positive and powerful impression in people's memory, it is all about your follow-up. A thank you email right away is a given. If you want to go above and beyond, send them a $5 virtual Starbucks gift card and say, next coffee's on me. Thanks so much for your time. Make sure you're not breaking any campaign violations. Some nonprofits, industries, and government officials can't accept gifts like that. So do your due diligence first. But for the vast majority of us, sending a little gift, Sugarfina box of candies is one of my favorite go-tos. And that's especially for folks who go above and beyond for you. If you feel like they just gave you an hour of their time and they gave you way more wisdom than you ever even thought to ask for, show them how much it means to you. Send them a book. It's always a great gift. Or send them something that reminds you of them to show it's a token of appreciation. And like I said before, make sure you keep people posted when you do get a job. If I help you, or if I counsel you at some point early on in your career search and then I don't hear about it when you land your dream job 3 months later, I'm going to feel like, oh, they forgot about me. Don't forget about those who got you where you are, right? Turn around, reference that spreadsheet, which you're going to be updating every single week of your job search, and make sure you send a thank you note, at least a blanket thank you, if not personalized thank yous, to the people who really made a difference. And then, of course, let's lift as we climb. Let's give back to those who we can whenever we're in a position of power ourselves. Just because you're networking online does not make these relationships any less real. So foster long-term relationships here by asking unapologetically for the help that you need right now, and then turning around and being thoughtful, mindful, and generous about giving that help when you're in a position to help later on. I guarantee you, you will be. So keep the faith. I know this process is long, arduous, lonely, and isolating. And one of the ways I want to share a gift with you is our completely free, comprehensive job search guide, really designed for the modern job search. It's got 8 different sections. It's almost 70 some odd pages long. Go to bossedup.org/job search right now to download your free copy and learn even more tips and tricks for networking, but really every single stage of the job search process. If I can ever be of service to you, please don't hesitate to get in touch. You know how to do it now. So I'll be looking out for those tactics on display in the future when hopefully I can ever be of service to you. Brandy, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you, Emily. So now let's look at some of the top questions that came in, and you can give your answers. The first one we have here is, you're both white, seemingly non-disabled, well-spoken women. Thank you. You have advantages in the job market that women of color do not. How do you think this advice can be modified for people who have to work twice as hard for half as much? Such a valid question, and thanks for asking it. Emily, do you want to take that?
Sure. Thanks for the opportunity. Such an important day to be even having this conversation. Today's Women's Equality Day, which is a holiday demarcating the 100-year anniversary of our 19th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, granting women the right to vote. But today, we also have to remember that not all women were granted that right. In fact, women of color, Black folks overall, didn't get the right to vote and weren't extended their suffrage until the 1960s. So whenever we talk about injustice, whenever we talk about obstacles in our path, or really anything, we have to bring an intersectional approach. Intersectionality was a term coined by Kimberly Crenshaw, a legal scholar, who used it to describe how different kinds of injustices overlap, making things twice as hard, as our question asker mentioned, for folks who live at those intersections, perhaps based on class, race, gender identity, sexual orientation, ability, you name it. Women of color, as a subset of the population, absolutely experience more challenges at every step of the job search process. In fact, new research shows that your name can be used to unfortunately discriminate against you. So number one, it's up to employers to do this better. So I don't ever want to give the impression that it's all on us as women, as people of color, or as any marginalized folks to solve for the world's injustices. It's really about people in positions of privilege to be mindful and conscientious about how the hiring process can be made more just. Here at Bossed Up, we, in the past few months, especially in light of the rise of the Black Lives Matter movement, came out with a detailed and ever-growing, to be quite honest, active anti-racism and justice plan. And part of what we audited, which included everything we do, was coming up with new policies around our hiring practices. Because research shows that if you hire, in order to combat systemic oppression, one of the easiest ways to do it is in your hiring process to ensure that at least 25% of job candidates who make it to the interview stage are people of color. Otherwise, people's race becomes the leading characteristic for which they are known, and their humanity and their skill sets and their personality fades into the background because it's like, oh, there's that one candidate. So we have to be better as employers about the hiring process. Now, that being said, we're not here today because we're employers, right? We're here as job seekers. So the first is, I'm a big believer in looking injustice straight in the eye and saying, this is not fair, this is not right, and I will not allow that to define me or my choices. It's one thing for the world to share unfair messages about who we are every day, but it's another thing to believe those messages, to shape our own identity in the light of others. So we have to surround ourselves by what we call at Bossed Up a courage community. We need to stand in front of people who reflect back to us a more courageous version of who we are than we can even believe sometimes. And we have to act in such a way that believes or belies a deeper underlying belief in our ability to figure things out. So that means going for that promotion, asking for that mentorship, asking for allyship, talking to the white, cis, male folks out there who can open doors for us. Because just because I'm a woman in tech doesn't mean women in tech are the only folks who can help me. My course on LinkedIn Learning, all about male allyship, is about how men can not open doors for women, a la chivalry, but how men can actually be active allies. Same exact thing for white folks, being active anti-racists in how we help lift as we climb. So there's no perfect answer to this question because this is a very messed up situation, right? Injustice exists. We have to play the cards that we've been dealt while we change the game and not allow that injustice to change who we see ourselves as and how we define ourselves. I hope that, as imperfect as an answer that was, I hope that helps you move forward.
Thanks, Emily. And another thing I want to mention here is just finding community groups, whether that's online or in person later on, that allows you to connect with people who have been through the same challenges as you and can offer their advice on how they landed their job. And hopefully, like Emily said, they'll be able to lift you up and then you can help someone else in return. So the next question we have here that I know probably a lot of people are wondering about is, reaching out to old friends or peers feels insincere when and if I haven't talked to them in a while. How do you navigate that?
Yeah. Someone just asked me this in our job search coaching program, and I said, all right, let's put ourselves in their shoes for a moment. Think about your relationship with one person you haven't talked to in way too long. Think about the feelings you associate with that person. Maybe it brings you back to your younger days. Maybe it reminds you of being young, wild, and free, or growing up together and growing apart over the years. Maybe it makes you feel a little nostalgic. Maybe it makes you feel a little sad. Now, imagine that those people who you have these fond memories of were out of a job right now. And imagine that you were in a position to help them. How would you feel if they reached out to you? If they slid into your inbox? If they gave you a phone call on a Sunday afternoon? How would you feel? If the feeling is positive, then you have to give yourself the same opportunity to create that reconnection with someone else. Now, you can also decide what to lead with. If you want to connect with someone who you admire because you think what they're doing is amazing, and not put directly in your email to them, hey, I'm unemployed and I would love your advice, you can also just pick up the phone or schedule a meeting via email to connect with them overall and mention the fact that you're unemployed, and then not be afraid to ask for their thoughts and help. There's a vulnerability in asking for help, especially with people we haven't talked to in too long. It's a good reminder that we should always be networking, that we should always be maintaining our relationships, even when we don't need something. But here's the thing. You will always risk being seen as a jerk for asking for help by someone. I think those people who think you're a jerk for asking for help are the jerks themselves. But I'm a very self-promotional person on occasion. It has made me a successful businesswoman. but I also rub people the wrong way sometimes. So I try to be as generous as I can in how I ask for help and how I try to connect with others. But there are always going to be people out there who say, ugh, I didn't like her tone, or I didn't like her approach on that. It seems so transactional and shallow. And what is the other risk? The other risk is you'll miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? That idea that if you don't reach out, if you don't ask for help, you have an opportunity cost that you're missing out on. So, it's not the critic who counts, to borrow words from Teddy. Is it Teddy Roosevelt or FDR? I can't remember. But that quote that Brene Brown popularized is, it's not about the person on the sidelines who's hurling tomatoes at you. You are in the ring. You have to decide how to get up, brush yourself off, and try again. You have to decide how you're going to go to the mat on your own behalf every day right now. And pride will get in the way of the messy, tumultuous process that the modern job search requires of you. So I feel for you. Talk it out with the folks who know you best. Talk it out with the people who might also know that person you're thinking about reaching out to, and say, how do you think I should do this? Talk it out with someone to get that reflection, because odds are you're being more critical of yourself than anyone else is going to be. And you can only understand that and really process that in a community of courage, even just one other loved one who can help you say, is this true? Or is this just my anxiety or my fear trying to protect me from harm? How true is this actual risk? And how much is it just my inner critic yapping away?
Absolutely. And, as someone who has been on both sides of that email, reaching out to someone who I haven't talked to in a while, and also have had people reach out to me, I can tell you that when someone is looking to reconnect and, ask for your advice, it is empowering. So try to reposition it in your head from, begging for their help to empowering them and showing your appreciation for where they are in their career. Wow. And that the fact that they're in that position.
I love that advice, Brandy. And you just reminded me of one other note. When I'm emailing someone and don't include an ask, if I get an email like that, I'm like, I don't know what you want from me, So you have to be conscientious of making it easy for that other person who's taking the time to read your note to know what the heck you're asking for. Otherwise, it's like, I get this request all the time. Hey, I'm a friend of so-and-so's. I'd love to hop on a quick call and see how we might be able to whatever. And I'm like, what are you asking me for? If I don't know, it's hard for me to say, sure, here's some time on my calendar. Be specific in making an ask, because it helps that other person really be thoughtful in setting their own boundaries. But let them set their own boundaries. Don't set people's boundaries for them. Unless they're your children, but that's a whole other story.
Thanks, Emily. So I know we are over time now, so just a reminder that you can continue asking questions and keep the conversation going on the community at go.indeed.com/networkingonline, and even use the community to network with each other. Everyone that's joined right now obviously is interested in building their network, so feel free to interact with each other there. And if you found this to be helpful, check out our other jobcasts at go.indeed.com/jobcast. So a huge thanks to Emily for sharing her wisdom, and thanks to you all for tuning in. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below.